Dude, I'm having so much fun playing Crimson Desert, it's getting kind of ridiculous. I'm like 40 hours into this game so far, and the amount of stuff that I've done already is just getting insane. This game is like the epitome of a virtual onion that you just keep peeling layers back to reveal new things that you can do in it. My camp is growing, I'm finding cool swords, and the world, man, it just keeps going, dude, in every direction. This game is scratching that Assassin's Creed itch in a way that Assassin's Creed could never do themselves. This feels like what Assassin's Creed Valhalla was trying to be, if that makes sense. Like, the game's journalists, however, are not happy about this either way. Because this game was meant to fail by their words, and yet, it's not doing that. Wait, what do you mean a game is doing well without the game's industry's consent? That can't happen. If you recall, Crimson Desert stock dropped a staggering 30% when the game's journalist reviews came out for the game initially. People thought it was going to be curtains for Pearl Abyss, and that the game's launch was absolutely cooked. Because the reviewers were saying that the game was bad, it was poorly optimized, and had nothing interesting to do in it. Then it actually came out. People played the game and realized, oh, wait, they were lying to us the entire time. As Pearl Abyss confirmed here even, Crimson Desert has now already crossed 3 million units sold in less than a week of release. That is kind of unusual these days, even more so because that's copies sold, not players, by the way. Most studios will usually say players because then they can use subscription services and such to mask the actual copies sold, which are much lower. But no, this is just 3 million sold to players, and that's great to see, and the transparency is awesome. I think how this user put it was pretty aptly placed. I cannot remember the last time a AAA game last posted a copies sold slide for their newly game release. It's always a number of players slide. Wonder why that is. 3 million in less than a week is wild. Starting to think that journalist games media isn't needed anymore probably never was. They're needed for basic things, I guess, like maybe just posting the release dates of games and whatnot. But the problem with a lot of games media is they can't get out of their own way or even their own egos half the time. And oh yeah, I forgot to mention that the stock price that went down, well, it's up again. As Eurogamer said here, the game has actually been doing so well for Pearl Abyss that all the damage that was done by the game's journalists who hated the game has effectively been reverted already. The exact number as of now is around 28 to 30% increases in stock, which is exactly what they lost from those reviews. This happens a lot in Asian game markets especially. Investors get spooked pretty easily, and then once things do well, they kind of just buy it back pretty much. But again, that dip wouldn't have happened had the reviewers not been as scathing as they have been and actually, played the game before they reviewed it fully. Regardless, the user reviews are instead very glowing, as you can see here on Metacritic. The game now has an 8.5 rating from players as of this video being made, which I think it should be even higher, honestly, myself. I think the game so far is likely more close to maybe a 9 out of 10 for me. I have some issues with it myself that I do want fixed eventually. But generally speaking, I think what is here is really good either way, especially at release. One issue for me, I wish the game had transmog so that I could wear the gear that I want while looking any which way I want to. That does seem like a weird oversight to not have available day one, but it is something I hope they add, but it's not like a game-breaking issue, obviously. I also wish you could hide your helmet while still wearing it, another odd omission considering how many systems are in the game. Also not game-breaking, of course, but right now at least you can, hide the accessories from each character's face. Like the earrings, I mean, but helmets, as of right now, you can't do that. The other major problem with the game, which as seen here, Forbes also spoke on this too, is that, in case you don't know, Crimson Desert has 3 fully playable characters. You have Cliff, Damien, and Unka. The problem, however, is that Damien and Unka come basically at level 1 when you get them, which your Cliff, who's the main character, will obviously be your most level character most likely. The problem here, however, is that the way that you level up in Crimson Desert is through something called Abyss artifacts. You can find these in the world. You also get them as rewards from doing puzzles or quests, and you get one every single time you also fill the experience bar to full. The issue is that all 3 characters share the same pool of artifacts to level themselves with, so if you spend everything on Cliff, you're going to have nothing for Damien and Unka, which means that if you wanted to use them, which at certain parts of the story you will be forced to, you basically need to respec Cliff, put all of his artifact points into, say, Damien, do her story segment, then respec her again, then give it to Unka to do his, and then respec him now, and then finally give it back to Cliff. The better solution would be that just each hero has the same pool of artifacts available to them, but they have it as their own stock, if that makes sense. So if I have 50 artifacts with Cliff, when I play as Damien, she should have 50 as well, but they're Damien's own stock, right? Cliff is left alone. This way, by leveling one hero, you can in theory level the other two as well equally. It would make it much easier to actually want to invest and use the other heroes instead of just Cliff. Because the other problem is that artifacts are also used to level your weapons and armor, and not every weapon or armor piece can be used by everybody equally. Damien and Unka also have their own skill trees or even unique weapon types and such only that they can use. For example, Damien can only use rapiers, Cliff can't use those, but Unka, if I remember correctly, is the only guy who can use heavy warhammers. Yet you wouldn't really be able to level Unka's hammer because you spent everything to keep Cliff's weapons topped up for obvious reasons because you played him the most. But if every hero had the same stock that was for them only, then it would be easier to do, if that makes sense. But besides that one glaring issue, I would say most of the game is pretty dang good, I gotta admit. And again, the whole armor and leveling up characters and stuff, that's definitely not as common as you think. You only have to play them a few times from what I understand, but you're mostly playing as Cliff anyways. So it's not a massive deal, but it is something that they should fix anyways, and I'm definitely still having a lot of fun with the game, and all I really want to do is keep playing it, but real life keeps getting in the way. But I feel as if the reason why Crimson Desert is resonating the way that it is because of what it really represents. It's the existence of something like this that makes the games industry and the journalists kind of uneasy. Not because it's something Crimson failed at, but because what it's doing is, actually working. Because why they try to prop up every single online game imaginable whenever they can, Crimson Desert is instead proving that players never really stopped wanting real true single player games in the first place. And if Resident Evil Requiem wasn't enough to prove that, Crimson Desert, yeah, most definitely is. Because the bet that a lot of companies made was that games shouldn't be, these handcrafted experiences. They gotta be platforms meant to extract money and intention just indefinitely. And that was kind of a mistake in my opinion, because it led to a lot of resources being shifted and priorities being changed. And while sure, to an extent, they were right, a lot of those games did well at first anyways, something underneath it all was quietly, starting to fall apart if you ask me. Because, in my opinion, the more complex the systems became for these games, the less meaningful they felt to play. Progression, most of the time, feels artificial in an always online game. It was hard to articulate, but you could feel it, You have to play the game now. You have to unlock this stuff available today because time is artificially running out for these things to disappear. And if you don't complete it and get it in the time given, you lose access to that content forever. Even though a lot of it is just useless garbage anyways, like a sticker or a spray you will never use once. Or like a nameplate even. It just kind of feels like a lot of the rewards in these sorts of games are devoid of craftsmanship outside of maybe the premium skins, I guess. But here comes Crimson Desert, right? You buy it once and that is it. You now have the game and you can do whatever you want in it. There's no time limits, there's no FOMO. You just get to play at your own pace, and that's something special, man. We need more of that, honestly. And it isn't just the scale of Crimson Desert that is important. I mean, sure, it's great how big the world really is, but it's the intention behind it that really matters. Not to mention that Crimson Desert also proves that using your own in-house engine can lead to really crazy results that are unique. Because Crimson is built on the Blackspace engine. Most games these days are on Unreal Engine. It means that Crimson can uniquely deliver what it can. Whereas with most games using the same engine like usual, it also means they have the same limitations too. Crimson Desert does some really cool things, right? They got seamless world travel, there's physics-driven gameplay like Breath of the Wild, and the combat is fun and it's full of insane stuff that you can do. Did you know that you can wield elemental powers in Crimson Desert? Because I didn't even know that until I saw it in a YouTube video yesterday. You can control fire and lightning and ice and stuff. I didn't even know that was possible. But I think the reason why the game resonates is pretty simple, because it feels like a world that actually is alive, if that makes sense. The game just feels like a challenge to the idea of what this modern AAA bloat has become. What I love about it is that it proves that depth of gameplay still matters, and you can immediately tell that this game is not built on the same engine as every other game, because it looks and actually feels unique. But the problem with Crimson Desert existing is that once something like this, exists, the excuses as to why things can't exist like it quickly start to fall apart. Because it's now not about what's possible, because yes, it's possible. possible. It's right there. You can play it. You can do whatever you want in it. It's real. You then start to question, well, why isn't what Crimson's doing something that these companies are prioritizing anymore? Why can't this be more of the norm? I don't mean the sheer scope of it, but just like how it works, how intricate it feels to unravel, the depth I mean. Like, why do so many games oftentimes feel constrained, I guess, or incomplete even? And honestly, once that realization starts to spread, which is what you're seeing as this game continues to keep climbing up and up the charts, it then makes you wonder, were the critics just lying all along? Mostly because they were afraid of something like this being so widely adopted and loved. Because it, again, goes against what they and the people they're in bed with kind of want these days. I think what a game like this ends up doing is that it's building what people want in real expectations. Not in scope, mind you, but again, they want that depth. They want more polish. They want intentions behind the experiences that they're investing into. And when a game like a Crimson Desert exists and delivers what it does for one price and that's it, I mean, I think we're going to see the demand for this sort of game only grow larger, not less. Because a Crimson Desert, a Resident Evil, a Zelda, what have you, kind of reminds people of what gaming used to be and can be. Before everything became about metrics and systems, but, just having a cool game first, that was enough. Maybe the industry believed that they could redefine what we wanted, that the engagement loops that they're trying to push for so long were enough to replace the immersion we wanted instead. That these systems and whatnot could replace the soul of the game, but I don't really think that's going to happen. I think what Crimson Desert represents is simple, right? People just kind of always want great games, and who can blame them? The problem, however, is that the industry has kind of stopped giving them at regular intervals, these games like they used to, right? Instead, it's a reality they don't really want to confront because they've been avoiding it for so long already that maybe the future of gaming doesn't belong to those who, have the biggest pipelines or the most outsourcing, or who can hire the most gambling experts to find new ways to monetize your other games. But instead, the future just kind of belongs to those willing to build something that really matters. I miss Skyrim, okay, yeah, I've played Skyrim so many times already and 100% of the game 2 times over. But what I mean is that I miss having games like Skyrim come out, those sorts of games. Because if you ask me, a lot of games still can't really rival a Skyrim in terms of scope and wonder. Well, we have it now, I guess, with Crimson Desert. Some may say, well, you had that with Witcher 3, but that was 11 years ago now. It took 3 years after Witcher 3 for Zelda Breath of the Wild to hit 2. Then it took another 5 years until we got Elden Ring, and now we're 4 years later on from Elden Ring, and now we have Crimson Desert. So yeah, these sorts of games do exist, and they are getting made. They're just very few and far between, unfortunately. Which makes these sorts of games even more extra special once they do release, because you don't get these very often. We haven't even gotten a proper Fallout single-player game in 11 years either, and don't say 76, okay? That's live service, you know what I mean. I can easily see Crimson Desert becoming its own series franchise, with each game building upon the world and expanding it in new and cool ways. If they can, land a better told story while retaining the rest that's already in there and tightening up the opening hours, especially in a sequel, then yeah, you're going to have a Game of the Year future contender whenever that comes out, right? But like I said, you won't hear it from the industry types because they hate this game, man. Look at this from Kotaku. Crimson Desert has pretty rocks, but after 12 hours playing it, I don't want to go on. This is how they open the article. I don't like Crimson Desert. At times, I think I actually hate it. After spending about a dozen hours with the newly released open-world RPG, I'm both impressed by its nearly photorealistic world and extremely uninterested in slogging through the content that resides inside of it, but it has some nice-looking rocks. Look, I'm going to save you the time, but the entire article can pretty much be condensed to this journalist held down a single button the entire time to fight. They didn't want to engage with any of the systems or learn anything, but thinks that the rocks and the water looks nice, but they do it in a condescending way, of course. It's Kotaku after all, what do you expect? But yeah, the game is clearly not for them. Meanwhile, where I am currently in the game myself, I stumbled into a military campaign where an entire region of the map was just suddenly flung into full-blown war. And there's hundreds of soldiers all fighting one another from each side as I'm just running through multiple burning villages, just slaughtering dudes left and right. with my magical two-hand sword. Like, I found this sword that can launch golden magical balls that home in and target enemies. It's really cool. I found it like way up north by the Steel Mountains on the map, and the sword's called the Darkbringer, I believe it's called. And this sword's like, you find it in the mouth of like a skeletal remain of like a giant titan. It's awesome, dude. And it's also, unsurprisingly, very good at deleting hordes of enemies at once too. I also got a new type of arrow, which when I shoot it at something within the radius of my allies that are manning the cannons, they will then shoot and then rain fire down on my enemies wherever I shoot the arrow. Like, you can even launch the cannonballs at big towers and more, just blowing them into pieces and removing the enemy formations that way too. Anyways, I'm 2 in-game days so far with this war campaign, alright? My cliff has ended so many lives and turned many children into orphans, probably in the process, dude. So much slaughter, it's ridiculous. There's also these big war machines that the enemy is now using that look like big dome turtle things that shoot fire and bombs. So naturally, I'm just raining cannon fire on those two to wipe them out as well, and all the dudes around them too. It just kind of feels like I'm in a Braveheart movie meets like 300 with King Leonidas or something. Again, I didn't even know this game had massive war campaigns, but surprise, hey, it does, I guess. Kotaku wouldn't know that though because, they stopped playing the game after 12 hours. They probably would have been more interested if Cliff was non-binary, but the only thing Cliff cares about is war, money, and making things go boom. Which is what I like to do in games too, by the way, so hey, that works out for me beautifully. But yeah, I just don't see a connection between what the journalist thinks and what the players at all think as well, man. Like, this is so much the epitome of a game that is built for players, not people who drink soy unironically while crying about politics online hoping that somebody cares. IGN, by the way, is also trying to rewrite history concerning Crimson Desert. Look at this. They're claiming that Crimson Desert needs its own Cyberpunk 2077 reinvention moment, which makes absolutely no sense at all. Crimson Desert is in no way disastrous or even close to how Cyberpunk launched in 2020. When Cyberpunk launched originally, it was an embarrassment that ruined CD Projekt Red's reputation when that released. The game was rightfully attacked and it was pretty much annihilated by reviews and everything, right? It ran like garbage at release, it looked even worse, and it wasn't until a good year and then some later did that Cyberpunk then started to actually become the game that it was always meant to be. Crimson Desert, however, is not that at all. Like, look at how IGN words their opener here, saying that Crimson Desert had a rocky launch with bad controls, bad difficulty spikes, and more. Yet within 2 days, almost everything they complained about was fixed already. How you can compare this to Cyberpunk at release is, it's honestly just pure copium to me. Like, these journalists are trying to paint this game as if it launched as a broken mess like most Western games, when it didn't at all. The only time in the game, for me so far, where frames dropped was during this one boss fight with a guy called the Crowcaller, which, by the way, getting to that guy was absolutely insane. You had to climb this gigantic tower, and then the platform at the top of the tower, like the roof, kind of transforms off the tower, and then this platform just floats into the sky for minutes at a time. And then you eventually just go into the sky and there's this massive installation just floating there. And then you have to turn on all of these PowerPoint things and connect these cables. And then eventually by doing all of that, you can then fly up even higher above the map, and then that's where you fight the boss. Absolutely insane, dude. But even then, by the way, the game, it never crashed once for me. In fact, the game hasn't crashed for me even once on the PS5 Pro. Like, IGN tries to complain, saying that the game doesn't have enough fast travel points or a storage box, but they do. They added all of that and more within 2 days of launch, not 2 months or a year plus, like other Western studios often take to do the same thing. IGN then says, as you can see there, that with enough fixes that Crimson Desert could be a good game by summer this year.
Who you talking to?
What do you mean by this summer? The game works perfectly fine as it is right now. What are you talking about? There's nothing game-breakingly bad about it like your typical Western releases. This is what I'm talking about, man. These journalists are trying to rewrite history right now because their hit pieces didn't work for this game the first time. They said that Crimson Desert sucked, so the stock then dropped. People finally played it for themselves, realized that they loved it, it sold 3 million copies, and then the stock flies all the way back up, so all their damage was undone. Now apparently Crimson Desert is like Cyberpunk at release, despite there being no credible evidence confirming that whatsoever. These are the people that are tasked with being honest in games, by by the way. If you believe the journalists, you would think that Crimson Desert runs at like 2 frames per second and crashes every single minute, when in reality it runs at a 60 FPS stable with all the bells and whistles and doesn't crash once even on PS5 Pro. These people are just lying, and I'm kind of sick of it, dude. Like, here, you want my recommendation? Maybe IGN and other places like them could work on their hiring processes, because they seem to just be hiring anybody over there. If this is what passes for journalism these days, which is honestly pathetic. It's just a bunch of corporate bootlicking shills that can't for the life of them even tell you if a game is good or not unless it fits their checklists or ideologies to a T. If Crimson Desert was made by a Western developer, especially a AAA one, I guarantee you it would have had even higher reviews than it did, because these people just prefer those sorts of games over ones that are made in the East. It is what it is. But these people, these IGNs and whatnot, they're really only in it to like ruin the games that you like, man. It's honestly sad to see. So you should just cut through the noise, play the games that you actually like, and go listen to someone who maybe actually plays the games over an IGN. Like, just do that instead. These people never cared about it, and that's clearer every single day. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you'd like to, but Crimson Desert is like Cyberpunk at launch. You people are delusional. You have like lost your credibility years ago, I know, and still, you keep just digging the grave even deeper. What are you doing? No wonder games journalism is dying the way that it is, but if this is what they want to spew, what do you expect, right? But unreal. Anyways, see you next time.